The hallway was silent and shining, but something felt off as the billionaire slowed down, sensing a strange tension in the air. He saw the pregnant maid standing still, one hand on her belly, the other holding the shelf like she might fall any second. Her face looked tired, eyes slightly wet, but she tried to stay normal, like nothing was wrong and everything was under control. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start. As he looked closer, he noticed dark bruises on her wrist, fresh marks that didn't belong to someone just doing housework. His steps became slower, his sharp mind suddenly distracted, focusing only on those marks and the pain behind them. She quickly pulled her sleeve down, hiding her arm, but her hands were shaking, and that made everything more suspicious. He had seen many things in life, lies, fear, betrayal, but this kind of quiet pain felt different and much more real. The cleaning basket beside her was perfectly arranged, showing she cared about her work even in this condition. For a few seconds, he just stood there, watching, trying to understand how he never noticed her condition before. A strange feeling rose inside him, not anger yet, not sadness fully, but something heavy that he couldn't ignore. And in that silent moment, without saying a word, something inside him began to change forever, starting right there. He stepped closer, his polished shoes echoing softly, but his attention was fixed only on her trembling posture and hidden pain. She sensed him near and quickly straightened up, forcing herself to look busy, afraid that stopping even for a second meant trouble. Her hands moved fast, wiping an already clean surface, trying to avoid his eyes and the question she feared might follow. He noticed everything now, the forced movements, the controlled breathing, the silent fear she carried behind her calm face. His voice came out calm but serious as he asked if she was all right, something he had never asked any worker before. She froze for a second, then nodded quickly, whispering that she was fine, but her voice lacked strength and truth. The answer didn't convince him at all. Instead, it made things clearer. Something was wrong, and she was hiding it badly. His eyes shifted again to her arm, the bruises darker up close, telling a story that words were trying to hide. A wave of anger slowly started building inside him, not loud, not explosive, but deep and controlled, like pressure rising. He realized this wasn't just an accident or carelessness. These marks came from something darker, something intentional. For the first time, his focus shifted from business and power to something human, something he could not ignore anymore. And right there, standing in his own house, he made a quiet decision that he would not walk away from this truth again. He walked beside her slowly, noticing how carefully she moved, like every step brought pain she was trying hard to hide. The silence between them felt heavy, not empty, like something important was waiting to be said, but both were holding back. His mind kept going back to those bruises, each mark asking a question he could no longer ignore or push away. He had control over everything in his life, but this moment felt different, something real, breaking through his usual cold thinking. She kept her eyes down, gripping the cleaning basket tighter, like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Every detail about her showed struggle, but also strength, a quiet dignity that made him question his own life choices. He finally spoke again, asking gently if someone had hurt her, his voice softer than it had ever been before. She shook her head quickly, denying it without looking up, but her breathing grew faster, giving away the truth. That small reaction hit him deeply, stronger than any words could, making him realize how serious this situation really was. He understood this was not just her problem, this was something happening under his roof while he stayed unaware. A heavy guilt started growing inside him, not loud, but strong enough to shake the image he had of himself. And in that moment, he knew one thing clearly: walking away now would make him just as guilty as whoever caused those bruises. He stopped walking and gently blocked her path, not to scare her, but to make sure she could not run away from this moment. She froze instantly, her fingers tightening around the basket, fear clearly visible now as her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. He lowered his voice, asking again, "Who did this?" This time slower, more serious, making it clear he would not ignore it. Her lips trembled, but no words came out, only silence filled with fear, like speaking would make things even worse for her. He noticed her shoulders shaking slightly, the strong wall she had built slowly starting to break under the pressure. For a second he looked away, controlling his anger, trying not to react too quickly before understanding everything fully. When he looked back, he saw tears forming in her eyes, quietly falling as she tried hard to stay composed and respectful. She whispered that it was nothing, just an accident, but her voice cracked, making it clear she was protecting someone. That lie hit him harder than the truth would have, because it showed how used she was to hiding her own pain. His chest felt heavy, realizing this was not a one-time thing. This was something she had been living with silently. He had power, money, control over everything, yet someone under his own roof was suffering without his knowledge. And right there, he made a firm decision that no matter what it takes, he would uncover the truth and stop this forever. He took a slow breath, controlling his anger, then gently asked her to sit, his tone firm, but filled with care she wasn't used to. She hesitated at first, looking around nervously, as if someone might appear and punish her just for stopping her work. He noticed that fear immediately, and it made his decision stronger. This was not just pain, this was a life lived in fear. She finally sat down slowly, holding her stomach, her face tightening for a second as a wave of pain clearly passed through her. That moment hit him deeply, realizing she was not only hurt, but also carrying a child while going through all this silently. He crouched slightly to her level, something he had never done before, breaking the distance that money had created for years. He asked her calmly to tell the truth, promising her that nothing bad would happen if she spoke honestly this time. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time she looked at him for a second, searching for trust in his words. That small eye contact was enough for him to see everything: fear, pain, and a silent cry for help she never expressed. She whispered slowly that someone hurt her, but begged him not to ask more, her voice shaking with pure fear. His jaw tightened again, anger rising stronger now, but he kept his voice steady, not wanting to scare her further. And in that moment, he knew this was no longer just concern. This had become his responsibility to protect her at any cost. His expression hardened, but his voice stayed controlled as he assured her that no one in this house had the right to harm her, no matter who they were or what power they thought they had. She looked at him with disbelief, as if she had never heard words like protection or safety directed toward her before, her eyes slowly filling with a fragile hope she didn't trust yet. He stood up straight, no longer just a silent observer, but someone ready to take control of a situation he should have seen long ago, but chose to ignore in his busy life. The air around them changed, the silence now carrying tension and purpose, as if something long buried was finally coming to the surface without fear. She tried to speak again, her voice shaking, explaining that if anyone found out she had said anything, things would only get worse for her and her unborn child. That sentence hit him harder than anything else, making his anger deeper, because it showed how trapped she truly was inside a system of fear and silence. He reassured her again, this time more firmly, that no harm would come to her any more, and that he would personally make sure she and her child stayed safe from now on. Her tears fell freely now, not just from pain, but from the strange feeling of being seen and heard for the very first time in a long and lonely struggle. He realized in that moment that money could not fix everything, but it could give him the power to change this one life if he chose to act without hesitation. His mind began connecting everything, the long working hours, the silence, the hidden injuries, all pointing to a truth he could no longer ignore or excuse. He felt a deep sense of guilt building inside him, knowing that his absence and ignorance allowed this suffering to continue right under his own roof. And right there, with a calm but powerful resolve, he decided that this would be the moment everything changes, not just for her, but for the kind of man he chooses to become. He turned away for a moment, running his hand over his face, trying to control the storm of anger and guilt building inside him. When he looked back at her, his eyes were no longer just concerned. They carried a firm promise that something was about to change. He told her clearly that from this moment she would not work another second in fear, and no one would be allowed near her without his permission. She stared at him in shock, unable to believe what she was hearing, as if her mind was struggling to accept a reality so different. Her hands trembled again, but this time not from fear alone. It was a mix of relief and disbelief slowly taking over her heart. He asked her to trust him just once, assuring her that he would handle everything and she would not have to face this alone anymore. Tears rolled down her face as she nodded slowly, that single nod carrying all the pain she had been hiding for so long. He gently asked her to rest, promising that he would return soon, but this time with answers and a solution she truly deserved. As he walked away, his calm steps hid the fire inside him, a controlled anger directed at the injustice he had just uncovered. For years he had built his life on success and power, but now he realized real strength was protecting those who had none. The hallway no longer felt silent. It felt alive with a decision that was already changing everything around them. And in that powerful moment, he was no longer just a billionaire. He had become someone ready to fight for what truly mattered. He returned after some time, his steps calm, but his face serious, carrying a decision that would change both their lives forever. She looked up at him with tired eyes, still unsure if this moment was real or just another passing hope that would fade away. He stood in front of her and told her clearly that she would no longer work as a maid, Her safety now mattered more than anything else. Her breath caught for a second, unable to process his words, as if her world had suddenly shifted in a way she never imagined. He explained that he had arranged a safe place for her to stay, away from fear, where she could rest and take care of herself and her child. Tears streamed down her face, but this time they carried relief, a release from the silent suffering she had endured for so long. He admitted quietly that he had failed to see her pain earlier, his voice filled with regret that came too late, but still mattered. She shook her head softly, not blaming him, because for the first time someone had chosen to stand beside her instead of ignoring her. That moment was not just help, it was dignity being returned, a life being rebuilt from fear into something safe and human again. He promised to support her future, not as charity, but as responsibility, a chance to correct what he once overlooked without care. As she sat there, holding her belly with calm instead of fear, a new beginning quietly took shape in that same hallway. The story ends here, but the mystery lives on. Like, subscribe, and return for the next unforgettable journey.